Hey darlings. Galya, what do you mean you can't? You understand that Mom will be upset. She was counting on your help. Galya also understood that Iroida Fedorovna will not just be upset, she will be angry. Maxim, I really can't. I feel so bad that I think I'm going to fall now. I wonder why you feel so bad exactly when my mom is waiting for us. It was very upsetting for Galya that her husband didn't care about her and her condition, but about his mom, who continued to raise her even after they divorced. Maxim really thought about it. After they announced to Max that they were taking a mortgage, Iroida, who called her Galya, was a little bit shocked. But still, after Maxim made Galya happy, Iroida told her everything about the house. She didn't have to work so hard on her preparation and cleaning, but now she's completely abandoned everything. She only has Max and TV shows left in her life. And a couple of hours, of course, to eat up Galina's brain. After they moved, Galina's duties were to clean up the apartment that was on the other side of the city. Iroida Fedorovna was that dirty girl. When Galya came, the dishes were all dirty. In the kitchen, it was as if they were pouring fat on cockroaches. At the same time, other food products were also used. On the frozen spots and the trash on the table and on the floor, Galya could easily understand what an elderly woman was cooking for a week. Sometimes Galya seemed, although she was not, she was sure that Iroida was deliberately making such a mess that Galya had to try. And she tried. What would she say to Maxim? I won't go. It will be ugly. Max even apologized to her. But she didn't want her mom to hear it. But it was enough for Galya, because it was a feat for Maxim. Maxim, I felt bad 2 weeks ago. I was patient, but now I can't. If you were a little more attentive to your wife, then of course you would have noticed everything. Galya, don't talk nonsense. Of course I would have noticed if you were sick. Maybe we'll just transfer to tomorrow. Mom, of course, will not be very happy, but we are all people. Galya sighed. How I wanted to fall and just sleep. Day or two, but no less. She really wanted to sleep all week. It's a shame to admit. She fell asleep twice at the workplace. Okay, Maxim, but don't promise me % for sure. I don't know what I'll do tomorrow. Everything will be fine. You'll rest and that's it. Galya barely made it home and immediately went down to the couch. Only then could she throw the coat on the floor. She almost fell asleep. She heard Maxim coming from the edge of her ear. How unhappy he was with the pots. She didn't prepare a fresh dinner, and he had to eat yesterday's pigeons. He came into the room several times, but Galya didn't turn around. Maxim sighed loudly and went to the kitchen again. She didn't hear how he lay down. She fell asleep again. In the morning she woke up as if nothing had happened yesterday. Right, Maxim. You just had to rest. But it's okay. 2 weekends ahead, she will sleep. And then Hallie remembered about the heroin. The day is over. You can't go. Hallie wanted to go to the room to lie down and say that nothing had happened to her, but Max entered the kitchen. Hallie, why are you stumbling? Mom has already called twice. Get dressed. You'll drink tea there.
Hallie sighed.
It is useless to argue or explain something. She went to dress up. Coming by, Mom already grumbled. Good morning to you too. Max was surprised by her look. What does it mean? Iroida Petrovna met them on the staircase. Really? They remembered me? Of course. Who needs me now? You can visit your mother for months. Maxim poked his mother in the cheek. Mom, don't shout. You understand? Yesterday we couldn't come. Not because of me. I know, Max. It's a shame that your wife will gradually separate us completely. Maxim sadly sighed. And in 3 minutes they were already sitting on the couch with their mother and watching TV. Galya had nothing left to do but start cleaning. Max never even tried to help her. Today it was hard for her. So hard that she wanted to cry. She collected the garbage, came to the room. Max, take out the garbage. He turned to her. What do you mean? Galya felt such indignation rising in her soul that it was dark in her eyes. Take out the garbage. Max got up, but Iroida Fedorovna pulled him back. Son, you're not going to me anyway. They will take it out, it will not break. Galya slowly took off her gloves, carefully folded them and shot her husband. I'm going home, and you finish here without me. She saw the look of her in-laws. Yeah, with that look on her face, she's ready to give her half of her life. She quickly got dressed. She heard the hysterical notes and the voice of her stepsister being recorded in the room. And Galya should have cooked something delicious for her. The woman quickly went down the stairs and immediately felt tired. What is this? She used to clean 2 apartments before and after work, and now, she'll move a little, and that's it. There's no more strength. She decided to reach the embankment and sit there. She'll breathe some fresh air. Today is a day off. Why not spend it on herself? Hallie decided to head to the park. On the way, she bought a big ice cream, walked and smiled at something unknown. She didn't notice that a man was looking at her. He looks and also smiles. Hallie sat down on a free bench, with pleasure stretched out her legs and began to eat ice cream. The mood improved with every second. How good it is when there is no Iroida and Max around. Hallie shabby stopped eating ice cream. How is it? It turns out that she is good when her husband is not around? But this is wrong. It cannot be. They swore. She tried to drive away the silly thoughts and returned to the ice cream. Now nothing matters at all. Someone sat next to her. Of course, Galya wanted to be alone, but on the other hand, the bench is big, so there is enough space for everyone. You were so good that I also wanted ice cream. Galya surprisingly turned her head. A man of years old was sitting next to her and smiled openly. Home and work, Iroida Fedorovna. The woman was confused, embarrassed, and the man laughed. You won't believe it. I'm not going to take your ice cream. Here, I bought it too. And he showed a big laugh. Galya laughed. She didn't understand how she did it. Galya immediately became confused and turned away. There were still a lot of unfamiliar men to laugh at here. Sorry if I disturbed you. Nothing wrong with that. The bench is not just for me. For a while they were eating ice cream, and Hala was looking at him with her eyes. Pretty cute, strong, well-dressed, hands with long fingers, but not fragile, but strong. She noticed that the man was also looking at her and quickly turned away. My name is Leonid. I have my first day off in 2 weeks, and I wanted to do it in good faith. Galya smiled involuntarily. Do you think ice cream will bring many benefits? The man laughed. Well, why not? I don't go on a diet, I rarely eat it, so to raise my mood, I eat exactly what I need. Perhaps you are right. You didn't tell me how I could address you. Galina. Galya immediately scolded herself. Couldn't say Lena or Tanya. She still doesn't intend to maintain any relationship with him. A rare name nowadays. She shook her shoulders. A common name. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to go. Hala saw the disappointment on the man's face, but realized that it was nothing to her. She has a husband. She has a family. She suddenly got up and felt that everything was spinning in her head. The river swam somewhere, and her legs became soft. The next moment she lost consciousness and fell on the man's feet. Leonid looked at her for a second, then threw the ice cream and sat next to her. One hand counted the pulse, the other called for an ambulance. People ran to them from all sides. Hallie woke up in the evening. She opened her eyes right in front of her window, and there was a sunset. The woman did not understand anything. She remembered the park. I remembered that man, and how did she end up here? And where is this place? How do you feel? She turned her head. The same man, only in a white robe and a hat. Who are you? Where am I? Hala tried to jump. Some unimaginable thoughts immediately came to her mind. She was taken somewhere. White robes. So they will put experiments on her. It's not normal. So he came up to her in the park. But she couldn't get up. Not only did her head spin, she also got sick. She was helpless and threw herself on the pillow. What do you need? Leonid smiled. I don't need anything. But you just need a full examination. How long have you had this? Excuse me, I'll introduce myself again. Leonid Andreevich Zurovlev. I'm a doctor, and you're in the first hospital. Hala felt so relieved that she even exhaled. Leonid looked at her strangely. What did you think? But she couldn't tell him what she thought. Now she has already examined the neighbors in the ward, some medical equipment, and the windows on which, by the way, there were no locks and grills. Nothing. I was just scared. He put his hand on her. Don't be afraid. Now we will take all the tests and find out what happened to you. Just tell me, how long have you been feeling bad? Hala began to tell, and she was suddenly surprised that she had been feeling bad for a long time. For some reason, she just didn't pay attention. Somehow she didn't focus on this. But when Leonid Andreevich started asking the leading questions, and she answered, it got scary. What's wrong with her? When he left, Galya almost cried. What should she do now? What if it's something serious? One of the neighbors in the room sat down to her. Don't worry, Leonid Andreevich is the best in our city. He said he would find out what's wrong. So he will. Galya smiled. No one will cry, if anything. Well, don't say that. There are children, even if they are not small. There are no children. The neighbor closed, then said, everything will be fine. Don't worry. The nurse came for Galya, asked her to sit in the chair. Yes, I can do it myself. What are you doing? You can't do that. The test will be ready, at least in a jump. And now you can't. Still, the neighbor waved her hand. Sit down, don't argue. We all rode here like this. Well, if everyone, then she will go too. Galya returned to the room only 2 hours later. Your phone is tearing in your bag. Galya was shocked. She did not warn Max quickly opening the bag. She picked up the phone just when he started calling again. Yes. Galya, are you crazy? Where are you? What the hell are you doing? Maxim, don't shout like that. Don't shout. You offended my mom. Do you even understand how it is? Maxim, I'm in the hospital. In the hospital? And what are you doing there? Can I ask? I lost consciousness on the street and I was brought here. For a few seconds, Max was silent, then asked a little more. And when they let you go, at home, you can play ball, and you didn't prepare anything for your mom. Galya even lost her speech for a while. Then she said, Maxim, do you hear me at all? I'm telling you, I'm in the hospital. I'm sick. Do you understand? I understand. I'm not a fool. I asked a normal question. When are you going home? Galya didn't say anything else. Just turned off, lay down and turned to the wall. It was so offensive that the tears rolled down on themselves. She heard the neighbors talking. The dishes were being served. Then someone took her by the shoulder. Enough of the sad thoughts of chasing. Get up, let's go have some tea. We have a tradition here, to lose weight before going to bed. The neighbors laughed and whined. Nothing remained but to get up. She was growling in her stomach. One of the women suspiciously looked at her. You ate today. Galya shook her shoulders. Ice cream. Great. And then they faint. Not surprising at all. Let me make you a good sandwich. What's that? Candy water? The woman, who was a little older than Galya, sneaked out of the door of the room. She came back in a minute, carrying in her hand sausage, butter, and a container with cutlets. Here. It's true that it won't work to warm up, because the post office is closed today. She's better looking after our figures than we are. By the way, my name is Sonia. Sonia was a cheerful, small-sized, lush woman. Looking at her, it seemed like she had no problems, and all the problems she saw were solved by themselves. Such a solid, positive bubble. And I'm Valley. By the way, I have a salad. They brought it only in the evening. I haven't put it in the fridge yet. It wasn't even 5 minutes before the tables and the improvised table were moved between the beds. When the water in the jar boiled, Sonia pulled out the kettle and said, "We drink coffee in the evenings." "Well, whoever wants to. And then in the morning, if Leonid Andreevich hears, everyone gets it. He's healing our pressure, and we don't want to go home." Sonia laughed. "Well, that's what he says to us." Hallie ate a whole high-rise sandwich with such pleasure that Sonia asked, "Maybe another one?" "No, no, I'm going to burst now." "Very tasty." They laughed. "Yes, you're just hungry." "What's so tasty?" "Ordinary sausage." They sat for a long time. Hallie learned that Valya has 3 children and a bastard husband who likes to drink, but at the same time works and loves Valya. Sonia has 1 daughter. "I don't like it, because my age is transition. My husband is good, I guess." "What about you?" "I have a husband too. And his mother." "How is that?" "Well, we live separately, and I think that Iroida Fedorovna is always with us."
Sonia sighed.
"Don't be offended by me, but you should have put your blood on the spot right away. Mine was also a mess. And my little son was talking to me. Since they brought me up together. We haven't been married for a year. So she came to visit us and sat with her husband. I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing that wrong. My cutlets are not very juicy. I couldn't stand it. My husband was in a hurry, and his mother-in-law told me to take my little son with me. Otherwise, I could even straighten her back. We'll laugh together, as we recall that incident." Valera laughed. "Sonia, you'll learn. Then she'll be put in jail, and you'll be to blame." I had a daughter-in-law who was immediately golden. She knows perfectly well that if I don't hold her son in hedgehog gloves, then that's it. He's finished. Galya listened and smiled. 2 women are sitting in front of her. Both seem to be swearing at their husbands. But with such love, yes, it is clear that husbands are good. The salad was obviously made by the husband. Everything was cut large, crooked, but he did it to feed the wife, to please her. In the morning, they knocked on the door. Valya and Sonia were surprised and looked over. Their husbands are at work at this time. Galya screamed, "Come in." Maxim entered the room. "Hello." He came up to Galya's bed and sat down. Then he smacked her cheek. He looked confused. "I was waiting for you yesterday. Max, I told you I was in the hospital. What did the doctor say?" "Nothing yet. The tests will be ready. Then he will say." "And when will they be ready?" Maxim looked like a parrot. Hala was tired of his one difficult question. She covered her eyes, and her husband looked at her confused. "Galya, maybe you should bring something? Tell me. I need it. I need slippers. Some of my things. I'll write it down." Maxim took a piece of paper. "Well, call me as soon as you know when you're home." "Okay." His room is already at the door. He's come back. "Galya, call your mom and apologize to her." Galya was surprised. "For what?" "Well, she ran away, didn't say goodbye." "Maxim, you're not in a hurry." He came out, and Galya looked at the door. The neighbors sat down right next to her. "Don't be upset. They're so helpless men when they're left without a wife." Galya sighed. "It's probably good that I got into the hospital. I'm looking at Maxim now, and I don't understand why I haven't seen all this for so many years. Do you know why we have no children? At first we lived with his mother. I myself am from the village. Well, she immediately said, 'No children, otherwise you will go to the street.' Then they took the apartment to the mortgage. I will not tell you what it cost me to persuade Max to take this step. Well, in general, they left, and children cannot be again, because now the loan, and the child needs to grow a lot of money. And I understand that he speaks with motherly words, but how to reassure, I do not understand. Now I am years old, and I finally understand that Max is his mother. And what can I do? And so the chance of giving birth is minimal, and in such a situation..." Valya sighed. "Yes, Galya, you got it. You just know what I'll tell you. And at women are born, and at new life begins." Oh, what a new life. Leave it. I got used to it. And he's not bad. Just his mom ate his brain. Sonia laughed. No, my dear. You need to stay in the hospital longer. Maybe ask them to treat your head? Galya also laughed. Everything was not so bad from the outside. It seems to be easier with a smile. The next day, Maxim brought everything on the list and pies with fish. Galya sadly smiled. Mom baked. Yes, Mom tried. Of course. Iroida Fedorovna knew perfectly well that Hala couldn't stand fish. And if she eats it, she will then feel sick. Tell Mom thank you very much. Of course I will. But I will go. Go, Maxim. Nothing about the analysis is known yet? No, the doctor said tomorrow. In the evening, Hala went for a walk in the hospital park. She felt weak, but much better. She walked along the deserted alley, then sat down at the bench. She thought. They met at the canteen. In the usual canteen, where she often ran to eat for lunch. Max sat down to her because there was no space. Can I have a girl? The guy was cute, and Galya smiled. Of course. It was somehow unnoticeable. They talked. It turned out that Maxim was working at the same factory as she was, only upstairs. So they called the building where their boss was sitting. Max answered for the excess of food. In the evening, on the same day, when she left after work, Maxim was already waiting for her. In principle, they did not part anymore. They spent the night at Galya's in her rented small apartment. And then Max said, Galya, I have two favorite women, you and Mom. It's very difficult for me to break up between you. Maybe we'll get married and move over to my house? Of course, Galya was waiting for a completely different offer, but she was delighted. Max was perfect in her eyes. Who did she see in her village? No one. Normal guys immediately left their holes. Only those who didn't care about themselves remained. The village died very quickly. When Galya was also going to leave after her grandmother's death, half of the houses were already empty. Hold on. Galya fell. She was so immersed in her memories that she completely forgot where she was. Leonid was sitting next to her. He had a jacket over his white coat. He was pulling out ice cream for her. There were no ice cream cups, only cups. Galya couldn't help but smile. She took the ice cream, opened it, and ate it with pleasure. Leonid Andreevich, you're a real wizard. Galya, can I ask you something? Yes, of course. Let me be Leonid Andreevich only there. He nodded at the hospital. And here, just Leonid. Okay, agreed. Where did you find ice cream at such a time? He laughed. If I say that I swept across the fence, beat up a couple of owners of ice cream cartons, you won't believe me, will you? No, I won't believe. Then I have to admit that I bought it in the morning on the way to work. Well, I don't know why. I thought I would be able to lure you out with ice cream for a walk. Hala laughed. I would go anyway. You women are unpredictable. Don't you know that any person who lies in the hospital just dreams of getting out on the street for at least 5 minutes? Well, I know, of course. What if it didn't work out? Ice cream is serious. Hala ate ice cream and thought that she never ate anything that was tastier. Leonid looked at her. He was just so upset with her pity, with her disappointment for her unfair life. An hour ago, the results of the test came. In fact, he suspected something like that, but didn't think that everything was so bad. He immediately called his friend. He was also a doctor, but in a completely different direction. I'll tell you right away, if miracles happen in the world, only a miracle can save this woman. Is everything so bad? Absolutely. You see, with such a situation, whenever she feels bad again, she may not get up. She will weaken every day, no matter how much you pinch her with vitamins. Ruslan, what should I do? I don't understand. Who is she to you? No one, just a friend. Leonid's voice was treacherously trembling. Wait, I don't understand. Our strong, Alovian soldier surrendered. Lenya said, Ruslan, how long can you keep it? But in fact, He was indeed called a strong, Alovian soldier. In their company, which consisted of doctors, Leonid was still single. At the same time, he always said that he was not going to marry. How many friends brought their wives and friends to the holidays? How many people introduced him? All for nothing. Leonid was alone. And then he, a principled man who never asks for anyone, asks for just a friend? Aha, let him tell. Listen, I won't promise anything, but I'll call one person tomorrow, send the tests, maybe he'll say something else. Now Leonid looked at Galya and didn't understand how to tell her that she had only 2 or 3 months left to live. If only a miracle didn't happen. And he, as a doctor, knew perfectly well that miracles don't happen. Galya, do you have a dream? She looked at him in surprise. Well, I don't know, some kind of childhood dream. You know, I always dreamed when I was little that when I grew up, regardless of who I became, I would jump with a parachute. And how? Everything was fine. I jumped, and not even once. I want to serve in the army. I even asked myself, you could not go. And I got into the army. I jumped, and that's enough for my whole life. She thought, I do not know. As a little girl, I dreamed that when I grew up, I would have a big dog. Here is a big one after a big one. Grandma did not like dogs. We only had a cat, Maruska. Leonid looked at her with interest. And that you still haven't fulfilled your dream? She waved her hands. No, what a dog. She's like a child. Requires care and attention, and we're constantly at work. And then keeping a big dog in the apartment is a real abuse towards the animal. Yes, you're right. You need to have a dacha. Hallie smiled. We seem to have one. Although it's located almost km from the city. We only went there a couple of times. Then my husband said that life outside of civilization doesn't suit him. So the house is standing. Nobody needs it. It's a pity to sell it, because I grew up there. And there's no way to go. Leonid thought about something. Then he decided that today he wouldn't say anything to her. Let him rest, sleep, and tomorrow he'll have to. When Max came, Leonid Andreevich appeared in the room right away. Excuse me, are you Galina's husband? Yes, I am. What happened? Couldn't you come to me? I have to tell Galina, but she's not here yet. It's okay. You'll see her later. When the men came out, Sonia turned to Valya. What was that just now? Did you see how much our doctor was sitting outside with Galina yesterday? Of course I saw. You think that's the reason for the conversation? Don't go to your grandma. Leonid Andreevich found a crack in Galya's ear. And since he's a decent man, he'll tell it to Maxim now. It's all wrong. Galya suffers from them anyway, and this too. How does she treat Leonid? Who knows? We didn't talk about anything like that. Galina appeared in the room at the most exciting moment of the conversation. She went out again to give some tests. What's the argument? Where's my husband? Or has he already run away? Oh, Galya, you'd better run away. She looked at them in surprise. What happened? You're talking normally, not in riddles. What? What? Did our doctor sit with you under the moon yesterday? And he's so decent here. And he led your Maxim to talk. Now he will tell him everything that he can't love. I will fight. Galya sat down on the bed. And what if it's true? What if it is? Everything is. Leonid Andreevich. Moreover, Galya was sure that he was guessing that she liked it very much. She jumped up. Where did they go? We don't know, but Leonid Maximov invited them to the office. Halia flew out of the room and ran to Leonid's office. She opened the door, but the men didn't notice her. Maxim said, "This just can't be. She never complained about anything. You probably just didn't notice. She must have been as tired as half a year. Doctor, how much? How much is left for her? 3, maybe 2 months. So little. She will walk all this time by herself? I can't say. Every loss of consciousness can end up in a lying position. So you need to make her not to be nervous at all." Hala immediately realized that the conversation was about her. She realized that she would not be able to do it very soon, and she lost consciousness. Leonid raised his head, knocked on the door, and jumped. She didn't want to come to her senses. It was better here. And there, she is not wanted to be seen. They want her to die. Galina. She opened her eyes. Next to the bed was a frightened Maxim, and Leonid Andreevich was standing by the head. Galina, we need to talk. You must take yourself into your own hands. She sat on the bed. Maxim, I want to go home. But Galya, what am I going to do with you at home? I have work. I can't be near him all the time. It was clear that Maxim's thought of being near him was not very pleasant. You don't have to be near me. I can handle it alone. When I can't get up, you'll take me to some hospice. But, Maxim, I want to go home. Leonid Andreevich interfered here. Galina, don't go crazy. You need to be treated. You need to use all the chances. She looked him straight in the eye. Are there many chances? Leonid looked away. She got up and started packing her things. Sonia started helping her. Valya couldn't do it. She was sitting in the corner and fighting with tears. When everything was packed, Hala looked at the neighbors and smiled. Well, let's say goodbye. They hugged her, and Sonia said, Why say goodbye? I'm sure we'll see each other again. Galya smiled sadly. In that light, Galya, I'm silent. Galya immediately lay down at home. She missed everything, including her husband. But Maxim tried not to touch her. He made himself a big room. The woman wiped her tears. Well, what? She almost didn't sleep last night. She heard that Maxim was talking to someone on the phone. Then she heard, Mom, how is it? Everything is clear. Momulia offers ways to get rid of Galya. And to be honest, she doesn't care at all. Let him at least take her to the forest. It's okay. Day by day, not such a big time to fight for him. She forgot in the morning. When she woke up, Maxim was not at home. She just made tea for herself, as if she was called. Galya didn't even move. She was right. A minute after a few calls, the key turned in the door. Iroida Fedorovna appeared at the kitchen door. Galya, I thought you were sleeping. Hello, Iroida Fedorovna. Hello. Cruelly pressed her lips. Well, how do you feel? Okay. How come, Galichka? Maxim married you, and you're such a surprise to him. You're a village girl. You should be healthy. Why did you set me up like that, son? How can he take care of you now? He works, and I can't? Age, you understand, Iroida Fedorovna said, and she quickly made herself tea, took out the butter from the refrigerator. Why should I take care of it? I seem to be walking on my own. Exactly. For now. And then what? You're going to break the boy's life. I don't understand. Iroida Fedorovna, what do you want from me? For me to go to the dumpster? This is my apartment. Max and I paid half of the price for it. He doesn't like it. Let him go to you. He'll live while it's all over. Well, think of something. And then you'll have to do the whole apartment's renovation. And that's the costs. And as you understand, you won't have any money now. Galya was so hurt. She is not yet dying, and Iroida is already talking about her death and what will happen next. Iroida Fedorovna, you should have left. The old woman, offended, clenched her lips, grabbed her jacket, but still could not leave just like that. You know what I'll tell you, Galya. You don't care anyway. You won't be able to help yourself. Besides, you should think about it. Why ruin his life? Don't be selfish. Don't think about how to ruin his life. Think about how to remind you of good words. She jumped out and loudly slammed the door, and Galina closed her face with her hands. How could this be? Why is everything different with other people? She understood perfectly well that her in-laws would not calm down. If she doesn't say anything else, then she will take the full program for Max. Hallie sat in the kitchen until the evening. She didn't care about anything. She heard how Maxim came, went into the kitchen, greeted him, looked in the pan, Hallie thought that she could of course cook something, talk with her in-laws, somehow knocked her out of the tracks. She silently went into the room, lay down and fell asleep. She woke up because Max was talking on the phone again. Mom, how can I offer her this? And there was no one in the house for so long. Mom, I understand that she doesn't care anymore. But how can I say that? No, Mom, I don't need it myself. He turned off the phone and turned around. The better you heard. Mom, and I think you should go to your village. There's fresh air and all that. He made an indefinite gesture with his hand in the air. Hallie looked at him and didn't understand how she could marry him. It's not even animalistic to send a person to die somewhere far away. Hallie understood perfectly what life was waiting for her here. She will constantly see the eyes that will ask her, "Soon you will free us." I wanted to live these months differently. Let it be only 2 or 3. Maxim, if I'm bothering you here, then you can take me to the dump. Galya, why are you so stubborn? There is no point in talking about the dump. You have a good house there. The neighbors are probably there. You'll be breathing in the air, drinking milk from the cow. And I'll be visiting you? She laughed. You want to get rid of me and at the same time say that you will visit me? Are you trying to calm me down so much that I agree? And I'll agree anyway. I can't see your faces, yours and your mom's. Hala returned to the room, lay down, turned to the wall. For what? Why is it with her that all this is happening? Why? In the morning, Maxim woke her up. Galya, wake up, we have to go. Where? She looked at him, surprised. Where? To the village? But I didn't even pack my things. Don't worry, I packed everything. She smiled. Can I drink some tea? Galya, why are you like this? I bought you some food too. He looked at her as if he was waiting for praise, and Galya wanted to hit him. He said all the way that it would be good for her, that he would often come, bring her everything she needed, as if he wanted to convince not only himself, but also Galya. She was sure that as soon as Maxim left, she would no longer see him. The village met them in a beautiful spring morning. The sun shone so brightly that Maxim had to get his sunglasses. Galya smiled. No, what's not handsome? A real man. At least that's what he looks like. No one will think that he will take his wife away from home to die, so as not to interfere. Maxim stopped the car at home. It's strange. Even the broth hasn't grown yet. The grass is, of course, high, but not with a broth. Maxim quickly brought his bags home. Galya just stood there. I understand you won't even come in. Galya, I need to go to work, but you know that I will definitely visit you in a few days. Maxim stretched out his lips to her, but Galya turned away. Go, don't waste your time on me. Galya, why are you like this? You will see, you will feel much better here. He ran to the car as if Galya had some kind of disease. The car was hidden, raising the cloud of dust, and Galya went home. It's strange, but she felt good about herself. The door opened willingly, and Galya pushed inside into a narrow passage, because the bags did not allow her to open the door wider. She always loved order, and now with some pleasure she considered the perfect order in the house, covered with a layer of dust. Well, that's not scary. Nothing big to do. Just wipe and wash everything. She took even the bedding with her. Or rather, Max put it on her. She saw it sticking out of her bag. Hey, hostess, maybe you need some help? I'm ready for a small, purely symbolic fee. Just a little bit of a show-off. The door opened and a man appeared at the door. But who could not understand it? Galya, is that you? The man was confused, looking at her, spreading fumes of burnt-out around him. Vovka? She opened her eyes wide. Exactly me. What kind of fate are you? Vovka was her classmate, the eternal balagar and the hooligan. It was still then that it was clear that the boy would not get out of it. The district police officer went to his house as if to work. At the same time, everyone respected Vovka. He was a hooligan, but he was just. Here she comes. For a long time, I don't know how long it will take. A month, 2, 3. He looked at her strangely. You say it's like she's here to die. That's right. He looked at her with a smile. Vovka, are you married? Oh, how? On the wedding day. Remember? The little girl from the younger class. Oh, I remember. She was almost from the 5th grade. Right. We have 3 children. How many? You're a hero. Vovka sat down on the couch, waved her hand. Oh, hero. I'm drinking. I'm drinking so I don't see how poor my family lives. And I can't do anything. You see? Nothing. No work, no money, no. I'll get drunk, but not so ashamed. Only because of the household and we leave. And to the city? What city, Hallie? 3 children. It is necessary to rent a large apartment. And such a thing costs not 5 kopecks. Earn, give everything for her. And again without anything to stay. Well, no, something needs to be invented. Farm household. Vovka, you always succeeded. Oh, we thought. You see, there are such hens, although I'll tell you later. There's no money for all this anyway. You have to buy everything. You tell me about yourself. Hallie sat next to him. And there's nothing to tell. Married, no children, got sick. So the husband brought her here, so as not to suffer with me. Lola laughed. Well, you have jokes. But Galya kept silent. A smile crawled out of her face. Galya, are you serious? She nodded and finally wept. Vovka, confused, stroked her shoulder. You don't cry. Do you want me to go get the light? We'll come for tea. We'll talk. Remember everything? Galya nodded. Then she looked around the house. Vova understood her correctly. And with this we will help. I'll just bring your bags. Galya smiled a little. And to get some rest? Oh, well, it's when there's nothing to do at all. And now, why? Vovka moved all the things in a minute. Well, you lay down, and I'll drive you home. He left and Galya started unpacking the bags. What a caring husband she has. Even all her cosmetics, all the decorations, everything was folded. Probably so that she wouldn't remember anything about her. Hala pulled out 3 pink rabbits. They were always sitting on her bed, like interior decorations. The rabbits were the same in appearance, but different in size. Hala pressed the toys to herself, then threw them on the couch. That's it. It's time to say goodbye to the past. An hour or so later, voices were heard in the yard. Hala came out. Hello, Hala. Svetlana looked at her. Galya remembered her so well. She was so small, with a smile. They hugged, and the light quickly faded away. And Vovka tells me about you, and I think I've had it. But he said so convincingly that I had to go and see. And here you are. Why are your eyes in a wet place? Stop it. Look what a brigade I brought to you. Galya was amazed and looked at 3 girls. They were about 2 years apart. They all looked like Vovka, but they were the same color. Wow, you're great. The whole kingdom is a princess. Well, we can do that. Vovka laughed, and the light cast such an eye on him that Vovka immediately became serious. They were trying to get by the evening. They cooked and ate in the yard, and cleaned, washed and cleaned. To be honest, Hala hadn't felt so good for a long time. She didn't have to build someone. She didn't have to endure hidden insults and affectionate words. She was herself. The girls turned out to be wonderful assistants. If not for them, Hala saw how they looked at the rabbits, and when it was time to go home, she solemnly gave them to them. So she gave them to them by their height. But the older girl immediately gave the smallest hair to the biggest one, and took the smallest one for herself. The baby jumped with joy, and Galya almost cried. That's how it should be. Not everyone is for themselves. And in the evening, Vova melted the bath and came for Galya. Come on. Svetka will give you a bath. Everything will immediately come out of you. Otherwise, she thought about getting sick. Oh, Vova, wait. I'll take something tasty for the girls. She unloaded all the candies, then took them out of the fridge, which, thank God, worked. Although he was the same age as Galya, a sausage stick, there was nothing interesting anymore. Maxim bought her only the most necessary, but nothing, and he is waiting for a big surprise, when he will climb into the box where they put the money for a new car, and she will buy the delicious girls later. The light made her so hot that she hardly breathed at first, and then such lightness appeared in the body. It seemed to jump a little higher, and you could fly to the moon. She asked Vova about their ideas. You see, we have a place where you can immediately give away a lot of broilers. We carry our own broilers, but they are small in weight, and there is such a breed that is ready for 3 months. But to do this, you need money. You need to buy a chain, create conditions for several, so that the eggs themselves can be sown, build their farms, food. Well, I can build it myself, only here. Oh, these are all dreams. And what? You even counted. Sveta brought the notebook. Here, look, this is if you hand them over to the opt. And this? Well, it's a dream. It's like opening your own shop in the city with homemade products. Sveta, how much does it cost? Yeah, I also thought it was a stock, that I had to go back and forth. But it's not that much. Sveta closed the notebook. Yeah, not really. We don't have that either. No work here. No allowance and my salary for clothes and something to buy. We mostly eat from the household. So that's all dreams. I'm not throwing it away yet. I think, what if I'm lucky? At night they took her home. However, Sveta first asked, Galya, maybe you'll stay overnight at our place tonight? No, Sveta, thank you very much. You need to get used to your home. She was so tired, but the fatigue was pleasant. As soon as Galya touched the pillow with her head, she fell asleep right away. At night the hens were awake. Many fat, beautiful hens. She was feeding them. It was so strange to feed hens. And Galya was having a lot of fun in her dream. She woke up with a smile on her lips. She thought she woke up just like that, but it turned out that they were knocking at the door. Galya threw on her robe and went to open it. Hello. 3 girls stood at the door. Daughters of Vova and Sveta. She laughed yesterday when she found out what their names were, as if the parents knew in advance that they would only have girls.
Hello, come in.
We're just a minute away. The oldest Vera put a bag on the table. Here, Mom sent milk, sour cream, and something else. You put everything out and give us the bag. We will take, Mom. Hala smiled. Everything is correct. In the village, Tara has always been appreciated. For milk, I'll take a can. For apples, a bag. When the girls ran away, Hala thought, how come? She doesn't know the world in fact, but she knows Vova better. They are all bad, and she was sent a whole bag. Is that so? The phone vibrated on the table. Hala was shocked. It was so unusual to hear him here. She stretched her hand. I guess he saw that I had no money. Hello? Galya, how could you? Why did you take the money? Oh, Maxim, hello. I'll also give you my apartment for the split. I'll probably have time to take mine in 2 months. But what split? What are you drunk? What split? Well, what do you mean what? We paid the mortgage equally. You threw me out of the apartment and half is mine. You know that I'm always in order with all the people. You won't laugh. He said, not in a flirty way, but in a confused way. How else can I laugh? You'll see. You buried me too early. Oh, too early. I'll have time for much more. Galya turned off. She only now realized what to do. And what she is going to do will be very even right. She climbed to the very bottom of the bag, pulled out a small bag. She counted the money from the bag, and it turned out to be about half of what was there. Galya was satisfied, smiled, put a few more bills in her pocket, and the remaining money was hidden under the couch. The little one had a secret hiding place there. Sveta was in the yard, looking around the club. The girls were spinning around. Someone was helping. Someone was bothering. Oh, Hallie, hi. How did you sleep? Great. Sveta, where is Vovka? Somewhere in the garden. He is so upset. Well, in general, he is worried about you. He hasn't been drinking for 2 days. Hallie smiled. Well, you see, there are pros in everything. Sveta waved her hand. Well, what are you talking about? Hallie turned to the girls. Go and call Dad. I need to talk to him. Yes, with my mother. Sveta looked at her, surprised. What happened, Gal? Don't worry, nothing bad happened. In 5 minutes they were sitting at the table. Sveta poured tea for everyone. Gal put money on the table. Here, in general, this is for your business, for your chickens. Vova and Sveta looked at the money. Finally, Vova said, Galya, we really appreciate what you're doing right now, but we won't take the money. We simply won't have anything to give them if something doesn't work out. Now Galya felt that no matter how stupid Vovka was, he was still the head of the family. And no one doubted that. Sveta agreed and nodded after her husband's words. But Galya didn't listen. This is not discussed. And then, who are you going to return them to? I won't have any more. I don't have any heirs. And I'm from a pure heart, really. Don't offend me. Take it. You have no idea how it feels to know that at least in the last days of my life, I was able to make someone a little happier. For some time, the spouses were silent. Then Vovka squeezed out. Gal, to be honest, you have no idea what you have done for us now. You don't doubt it. Everything will be as it should be. We'll do it right here. Vovka jumped in, hugged Galya, then Sveta, then grabbed all the girls at once and loaded them into the room. Sveta, Galya, we'll make it, and we'll definitely give birth to another boy. Sveta laughed. That's it. Leave it. No boys. Enough for us already. Nothing will be enough. Son should be. Hallie looked at them and realized that this is happiness. Happiness is to be happy, not to try to learn. Not to try to force yourself to be happy. Not to pretend that you are happy. Leonid Andreevich looked at himself in one direction. Life is somehow strange. He met a woman for the sake of whom he was ready for the most senseless acts, and she left. She didn't even try to be different. She didn't even try to take a step towards her happiness. After all, Leonid saw how she looked at him. He knew for sure that she was also indifferent to him. Yes, he is a doctor, and he understands. He saw more than once how the disease broke people, and first morally, and only then physically. And people put their hands down even in cases when it was possible and needed to fight. Hala broke down right away. She didn't even ask if she could do something. She just left with a doomed look. The phone rang on the table. Yes, I'm listening. Lyonya, I have great news for you. Hey, Diamond, what's the news? Remember, you sent the test results to that woman? Well, your friends. I remember, of course. Leonid felt her heart beat faster. So, I sent them to my friend. He's working on similar cases now. I didn't know about that, though. They're having a set of experimental treatments in the clinic. He's sure your protégé has every chance. You need to send her the data immediately to have it recorded. Well, and her legs in her hands and in the clinic? Leonid was silent. Leonid, why are you silent? She left. Went home to her husband. Said that she didn't need anything. How? And her husband also just gave up? And he didn't try to talk her out of it. Leonid, I don't understand you. As far as I understand, the woman is not indifferent to you. And what? You will just sit? She's twice as fast as her husband. What do you suggest I do? What do you mean? Go, save her. It's all in your hands. If she doesn't want to, make her do it. Lyonya, what are you doing? Leonid listened and realized that he was really, even if it's a little softer, an idiot. He doesn't care even if Galya never answers in return. He will save her. He will at least know that she is alive. Dima. He writes the data. I'll find it. Wow, that's our way. I'm writing it down with dictation. Lyonya has already come 3 times and called the door. Strange. All normal people have a working day that ends at, well, maybe. It's already o'clock, and no one opens it. He sat down on the windowsill in the entrance again. Nothing. It will wait. It will be necessary. And the night will sit here. In minutes he heard the footsteps. Leonid got up, but it was some woman. She suspiciously looked at him and began to open the door, which was located next to Galina's door. "Excuse me, may I ask you a few questions?" The woman was scared and shuddered. "Don't be afraid. I'm a doctor. I had your neighbor Galina at the treatment. You see, she is expected in a good clinic, so there is hope for a successful outcome. And I can't find her. That's what it means. Is Galya ill? Are you serious?" "Very. I see. I wonder why Maximka is so busy. He sent her somewhere. She's doing some business with the apartment. He took her away? Where did he take her?" "I don't know. I saw her bags in the window this morning. A lot of bags. So he took her away for a long time. Forever." Leonid sighed. "You see, Galya is still. Well, not much. The sooner I find her, the greater the chance that she will be cured." "Where could he take her?" The neighbor was upset and waved her hands. "I don't know. I'm being honest." "Oh, Maxim. Oh, damn it. It's all his mommy's fault. Although, wait a minute. Of course, the assumption from the fantasy family. There is a house in the village, somewhere far away. But I don't remember what the village is called. I have it written somewhere. Sit down. I'll look for it." She went into the room, and Leonid was already impatiently walking around. "Exactly. Galya said she had a house. She is definitely there. She must be there. Otherwise, he doesn't know where to look for her." The neighbor returned. She pulled out a piece of paper from his hand. He read the name of the village. "Thank you very much. You're welcome. If only she were there. If only everything was fine. Tell her, if you find that her husband is doing something with the apartment here." "I will. I will definitely tell her." He almost ran down the stairs. "If you go right now, you can get to the clinic in the morning." Lyonya stopped in the middle of the village. "Well, what to do? It's already dark. The house is still in full bloom, but they wouldn't meet him with a trunk or villas. He was not very familiar with the village life, although he was always drawn to live in such places. There was nothing to do. You need to knock somewhere." He drove closer to one of the houses and immediately separated from the gate a shadow. It was a huge dog. He barely managed to get into the car and slam the door. "Not bad. Okay, let's try another place." But the dogs were all over the village. Leonid decided to drive up to every house. Maybe someone will come out, or the dogs will not be found somewhere. Sveta, Galya, and Vova sat at the table. They counted, thought. Vova has almost completed the construction of the fence, feeders. The business remained for a couple of days. Vovka was not to be recognized. He cut himself. He had not drunk for more than a week. Galya saw what look Sveta was throwing at her husband. She thought about herself. To be a son, definitely. Well, it seems like everything. Still checked? Everything. 5 times. Already. "Vov, let us go. We want to sleep." Sveta looked at her husband with pity. He smiled. "Then we'll sleep." "Galya, will you go with us? Maybe you need something in the city?" "No, I won't go myself, but I'll write a list." "Well, okay. You'll watch the girls here." Galya laughed. "They are watching me, so I am under reliable protection. Faith, hope, and love protect me. They force me to eat. They drive me out into the air." Vova smiled. His girls really took over Galina's chevstvo. They looked after her like they were little. Either one of them heard the conversation that Gali doesn't live much, or they just liked her, but the girls didn't take a step away from her. Sveta turned to the window. Something about dogs was going on, as if it was some kind of wolf. "Well, what wolf, Sveta? In our country, there are no wolves for years. Look, some kind of car stopped. I'll go and see." "Vova." "Sveta, Calm down and don't look at the detectives anymore. Vova went out, and the women listened to what was happening there. But nothing was heard. Nothing at all. 10 minutes passed, and Vova, as if a cow was licking her tongue, Sveta got up. I went out. Galya got up too. I'm with you. They, without talking, took the stove from the stove and moved to the doors. They didn't get far as the door opened. Vova and Leonid were looking at them with amazement. They were not as much as they had in their hands. Vova was the first to not stand it. He laughed so much that he even bent in half. Then, looking at him, Leonid laughed. The women stood silent. Sveta looked at the floor in embarrassment, and Galya, gazing at Leonid Andreevich. How are you here at all? He laughed and said, I'm after you, Galya. I don't understand anything. Vova pushed Leonid into the house. Sveta, imagine us a cup of tea or coffee. A good man has arrived here. Svetlana quickly covered the table, and Galya thought how she wanted to see him. And here he is. It was so hard on my soul. I wish I hadn't seen him. Now I don't want to die at all. Soon everyone sat down at the table. Leonid began to speak. Gala, the thing is that I have a lot of friends in the medical world. We studied with someone. We crossed paths in our profession. We all communicate and try to help each other. When your tests came, I immediately sent them to my friend. He works with your diseases, but he said what I already knew. But he offered to show another friend. In general, that friend is hiring a group of patients for experimental treatment. As you understand, this is a risk, but this is a chance, and not a bad chance. And he immediately said about it. I took the courage and wrote you down, and then I rushed home to you. You are not. Thanks, neighbor. Hinted where you can be. By the way, she asked to tell that your husband is doing something with the apartment. I really don't know what. Tomorrow at 8, you have to go to the clinic, otherwise someone else will be taken to your place. There was silence at the table. Hala felt so strange. She was supposed to die, and then she was told that there was a chance. She wanted to believe it so much, but there was another thought. And if she believes, if she wants to live again, but the treatment will not help, she thought about what disappointment would await her then. Everyone was silent, as if they understood what struggle was going on in her. Finally, Hala raised her head. I'll go. Of course I'll go.
Vova sighed.
If you refused, I would personally tie you up and take you there. So, my dear ones, you need to get ready and sleep a couple of hours. Hala, you have to leave early. It's 4 o'clock. Let's get ready. We'll come to see you off. Sveta and Vova took Leonid and Galya to the car. Galya got in the car and immediately felt embarrassed. Yes, she is certainly ill, but she is still a woman. Leonid liked her insanely, and they had to spend, let it be short, but the night together. She quickly collected everything necessary, spread the sofa for Leonid, turned around to tell him that he could lie down, and he stood right behind her. Galya didn't understand how it was to hug them. They couldn't sleep. At 4 in the morning they went out. While Leonid was packing her things, Sveta took her away. Galya, you're all glowing. Is that what I think? Galya was embarrassed and nodded. And Sveta suddenly became serious. Galya, I'm very happy for you. So you can't even imagine? I ask you. Remember that there is always a meaning in life. You just have to fight for yourself, for him, do you hear? Galya looked hard into the eyes of her new friend. I will fight. I will do my best, I promise. They hugged tightly and Galya got into the car. Vovka came up to her, looked into the window. Lyonya says that the treatment is about half a year. Don't worry. We'll be watching the house, heating it up. You'll be back soon to open your own store. Hallie laughed. Well, I can't miss such an event. I'll definitely come. We'll come. They were silent all the way to the city. Hallie couldn't talk. Only in the city, when they stopped at the hospital, Leonid asked, I don't know what will happen next and whether it will happen at all. But I ask you to help me. I want to give up my marriage and my property. Even if nothing will help me, I want to leave that world as a free person. Of course I will help you, but no one will leave. We still have so much ahead of us. Hallie was immediately put in the station. Her doctor, Igor Igorovich, was like a normal person. However, like all geniuses, she had two other women in her ward. They didn't call him a genius, except for him. It's been 2 weeks since she was in the hospital. Hallie sent Leonid all the documents for the divorce. She wrote that she couldn't come because of the illness. She confirmed everything with the documents. Lyonya said that the state attorney would be at the hearing, although he doesn't really need him, and so everything is clear. She didn't want to see either Maxim or his mom, and she asked not to tell them where she was. It turned out that Maxim decided to sue the apartment. It all got delayed, and Galya understood him perfectly. If she dies earlier than the apartment is divided, then everything will be given to him. So she just has to get well. The door opened. Galya did not stop reading the book. Because Lenya will not come today, he has a shift, and there is no one else to come to her. Look at her. It's as if we have no relation to her. Galya looked up and almost closed her eyes. Sonia and Valya stood in front of her. Girls, God, where are you from? She hugged and kissed them, and the girls began to put everything they brought into the bag. Where are you going? I will never eat this. You won't eat it yourself. You will share it with your neighbors. By the way, your lord's name is Leonid Andreevich. Vally came to the reception, and he told her where she was and what she was doing. She called me. We talked like that after the hospital. And here we are. Well, Lyonya, and he didn't say anything. The women looked over, and Galya was embarrassed. Well, yes, we are together. I don't know how much we are different, but I am very happy. Sonia stroked her on the hand. It was immediately clear that you were just created for each other, and you didn't have to resist it. Well, tell me. They talked for 2 hours. By the way, Valya said that her brother has his own chicken coop, and he will definitely be happy to buy homemade chickens, and not only. You see, he has like homemade food there. But it's very difficult to find all this homemade. And if in one place, it's just impossible. You talk to them, and I'll talk to him, and let's call tomorrow. Oh, Valya, that would be great. The next day, as a gas station advertiser, Galya wrote on her phone to Vovka all the benefits from such cooperation. Then she put down her phone and said to herself, well, Galya, life is key to you lately. Half of such activities have never been before. And in the morning Igor Igorovich came to them. Well, girls, are you ready? We start the treatment tomorrow. For each of you, your course. You, Galya, will get the hardest. You must be ready for the fact that you will want to go to that world faster than you will feel bad. There is not enough time, you know? Therefore, we will treat you aggressively. What is required of you? Patience, faith. You must eat. I am telling you now so that you do not forget later. You will feel so bad that the thought of food itself will be disgusting. But you must. You just owe it. If you do not have any strength, the body will not cope. Are you ready? Yes. She looked at him. I'm ready for anything. That's great. By the evening of the next day, Galya felt well what Igor Igorovich was talking about. It was a little easier for the girls, she saw it. It was easier together. Lyonya came almost every day. He sat at her bed, told her some funny stories. Sometimes when she was in a dream of helplessness, she just kept silent and looked at her. Hallie was literally dried up. It seemed a little more, and the skin would become transparent. 2 months passed since the beginning of the treatment. The period that fate had taken away from her was already over, and this was the hope. After some time, the treatment became not so extensive, and Hallie even managed to transfer her spirit. Autumn was already coming. She slowly approached the window. How beautiful. Lyonya promised that she would be taken out today. She was not yet able to make such a path herself. In the morning, the analysis and the full examination. Only in a few days something will become known. Galya, are you ready? She turned around. Lyonya was already in the room. In front of him was an invalid chair. Carriages served. Galya suddenly remembered how she resisted the same chair as when she just got to the hospital. It seemed like such a shame. Now it was indifferent to her just to get out on the street. She sighed with a full chest. How good it is. Gala. The woman opened her eyes. Lyonya, with a smile, stretched her ice cream. It can't be. Maybe. A little bit. Like those we ate when we met. Maxim sat at the table and listened to what his mother was saying. And she said it without keeping silent. And I don't understand. I honestly don't understand. Why don't you do anything? Mom, what should I do in your way? He got tired and exhaled. He sat down to argue with his mother, and it hadn't been long. When Galya was not around, all the attention of his mother returned to him. It was not just a joke. It did not let him live. If only Maxim was late for work, or even somewhere else, Mom would start calling in 3 minutes. Even friends asked if he got married again. He waved his hand and called, but only in vain. Mom was always persistent. What? You understand. All the deadlines are out. Galya is no longer alive. Yeah, Mom. But I would be told. What is this all about? Who are you to her? Almost a stranger. Don't forget, you were divorced almost a year ago. You're an idiot, too. You couldn't persuade her to divorce. Maxim sighed again. Mom, you said back then that everything was fine. You wouldn't have to spend money on funeral. Iroida Fedorovna looked at him in surprise. So what? You could have fixed me. You have to understand that on the eve of the apartment, I knew your wife worse than you. Maxim grabbed his head. Everything I do is wrong with you. Tell me, Mom, aren't you tired? You should go for a walk. Iroida clenched her lips. Mother is trying hard for you, fool, because you can't do anything yourself, and you're not doing anything right. She immediately shed a tear, watching her son. Mom, I'm sorry, don't cry. What do you suggest? She instantly calmed down. While the court made a decision, she had to go to that village, find the grave of Galya, take a picture, but to have proof and bring it to court. They probably are waiting for her, and they don't know what to expect. Otherwise, they would have been in the apartment for a long time. Maxim understood that his mother was right, but he didn't want to go there. Well, how? It was a complete nonsense. She was already struggling to walk, constantly taking a break, and stopped. And it's been a year. Well, I guess I should go. Okay, Mom, I'll go on weekends. And you know what? I'm with you. Her house is still there. Maybe it will be possible to sell it too. Mom, what? He will fall apart like that. She didn't have anyone except you. And then Mom was right. But somehow it was unpleasant to hear her words. They decided to go on Saturday early in the morning to come back faster. The car was recently repaired, but Max was sorry for the money and put the cheapest parts on it. Look, boy, of course, it's up to you. But such parts are rarely used for a long time. Of course, he did not tell his mother about this. He did not want her to refuse the trip. He blamed Galya for everything. I would never have thought that Hallie could take money and then threaten him. But it's okay. Now everyone has earned their own money. They go on a Saturday and justice triumphs. In general, Maxim is already scared to live with his mother. He had a romance at work, and there was nowhere to bring a woman because the apartment was rented out and his mother insisted on this. I don't understand. You have your own room here. You can get money. At first he liked it. Mom cooked a lot, always different, but then she got tired. Mom watched not only every step, but also every penny. She wanted some kind of certainty to leave her mom. He didn't tell her about it because there would be a scandal right away. Sveta, what are you digging? Vovka, don't get your hands dirty. Sveta counted the glasses on the table. That's it. That's enough for everyone. I still have some stock. Are you sure? I'm sure. And you're all set? You're offending me. Look. Vovka made a gesture with his hand. Sveta looked with a smile where he was showing. There was their first large purchase. A big car. It was light, but of such dimensions, and with such a trunk that half of their house would fit there. There were rings, white flowers on the car. Vova went to the city yesterday to pick them up. Lyonya and Gala didn't even know. Vova prepared a surprise for them. They have a painting in an hour. They decided to paint here, in the local village council, which was in the neighboring village. They decided to do everything in the village, because in the next few years, and Vovka and Sveta hoped that the young people would live in the village. Gali was given fresh air, and Lyonya was nowhere to be found. He was taken to work as a felker with great joy. The tables were covered in the yard by Sveta and Vova. There were not so many guests, only the best and the closest. Valya looked out of the house. We'll probably take the girls and go to the village council. All three were in pink, gorgeous dresses. Yes, Valya, you can go. You check everything there. And Sonia? Sonia will stay to help you. You remember, she is at the tomahawk. Sveta laughed. You won't forget it. I remember yesterday's rehearsal with a quiver. They laughed. Yes, yesterday Sonia was chasing them. Who is where? Who is talking? Valya's husband came into the yard. He helped Vovia decorate the car. Well, shall we go? Yes, we are going. The girls loaded the car to Valya and her husband with noise. Sveta approached the car. Vera, Nadia, Luba, did you feed Galen a gift? We fed, Mom, and walked around. And he also clipped Annie Valya's finger. How did he do it? He's so small. Valya laughed, showed her the finger on which the teeth pierced. I thought he was a little one, but that little one has sharp teeth and not very good character. The car drove away, and Sveta returned to the yard. You take them later, and Sonia and I will come back. They all got into the car and went to Galya's house. Galya, to be honest, just wanted to sign. But Leonid, Sveta, Vovka, Sonia, and everyone who has been involved in her life lately, they just pounced on her. Do you want to deprive us of the holiday? How can you not want a wedding, Galya? What are you doing? And then she thought, and really, what is she? She remembered how she found out that the disease had receded. There is a risk, it is always there, that she can come back, but small, almost miserable, as Igor Igorovich said. That day he entered her room, serious, even angry. Lyonya was at her place. They looked at the doctor together, as if they were looking at God. I wanted to shout, don't be silent, speak. But Igor Igorovich seemed to be taking his time on purpose. He sat down, looked at them from head to toe and said, Well, are you waiting? Lyonya had her crutches on, but the doctor raised his hand. Calm down. I have to hold out until everything sounds as solemn as possible. Gala quietly said, You want to say? And then Igor Igorovich did something that no one expected from him. He jumped up and yelled, We won. You are the heaviest, my sick, the most. And we won. What happened to Gala then? She cried, laughed. She did not understand. She could not understand that she does not need to die. She can live the way she wants. Now Galya looked at herself in the mirror. She picked out a dress for the floor with open shoulders. Cast. She caught a delighted look in the mirror of Lyonya, turned to him. Well, how do you like me? You. Amazing. Galya, you're really super. At the door stood Vova. He was in a suit, so he looked important. Enough of your whining. You are about to be created by the society. The carriage is ready. Galya looked out the window and laughed. Vova, why? We are already adults. No, I don't understand. Is it your wedding, or what? My girls have been preparing since AM, and I can't please my bride. Please. Galya's phone rang and poked Vova in the cheek. Ilya immediately showed him his fist. They're coming. Sonia was in a hurry, gave the guests coins and rice to sprinkle on the young. She took the bed herself. She was very responsible for coming to the fact that she was entrusted. Rather, she asked herself, to be exact. When she found out that they were going to make a regular feast out of the wedding, she was so outraged that it was heard far away. No one tried to argue with Sonia. Everyone knew that it was completely useless. Galya was as happy as she was beautiful. She looked at those who came to congratulate them and smiled. In general, lately, she has only done what she smiled. Well, how if life turns out to be so wonderful? Sonia announced the gift of gifts. They were placed near a small decorated table, and everyone began to wish them something, to fold envelopes. That Galya had lost her husband. She just wanted to ask him where he was. As Sonia said loudly, every person has a dream. And our bride, I'm sorry, the young wife, has one too. So, Leonid decided that he should fulfill this dream. The next moment, Galya was in a daze. Lyonya walked to her, holding a thick puddle of water in her hands. He was just a baby, though the size of a young sheep. Here's Galya. We just need to think of a name. Galya took this miracle in her hands, and the miracle licked her cheek, removing the rolling tear from there. Lyonya, you're the best. You're the best. I love you very much. About an hour passed since the feast began, when Galya turned to the guests. We have to leave you for a while, but we'll be back. Galya, where are you going? The woman smiled sadly. I used to live here with my grandmother. She's long gone, but I'm back in her house. Here again, where everything reminds me of that life. We're going to the cemetery. I have to tell her that I'm happy. Someone called to go with them. Someone else was waiting at the table. Galya took the flowers prepared in advance, and they went to the cemetery, which was immediately behind the village. The miracle that Galya could not find for them. She ran around them. Look, some kind of car. Someone has arrived. Sveta pulled her husband's hand. Well, they arrived and arrived. We are on our own. Wonder, hey, wonder. Where are you going? The puppy rushed somewhere deep into the cemetery, to someone loud and loud. It was impossible to call it a lion. Here, she said to the idiot, let's ask someone. Mom, stop calling me an idiot. How do you imagine that? You were supposed to have a woman die. Where can we find her grave? Iroida Fedorovna was shocked. And what do you think? We should wander around the cemetery for 2 hours. It is not clear what to look for. Better. Maybe she died in the hospital in general, and then she was buried in the city. What did you not think about it before? How can you not be called an idiot if you yourself cannot think of anything? Maxim didn't have time to answer her. A puppy with a loud bark rolled up to them. Ugh, bastard. Scared me. But now we'll find out everything. Maxim whined. You'll ask the dog. It's very smart, Mom. Iroida Fedorovna sighed. Of course not, idiot. The puppy is breed, clean. It's clear that he doesn't live here, but came with someone. Maxim turned away. A miracle. Maxim thought he heard a familiar voice. He turned around and saw his mother grab his heart. Damn me. Galya was rushing to them. Or rather, it was Galya, not Galya. Very beautiful. Some kind of non-earth in a dress that seemed to be glowing. She also saw them and stopped like You? Galya? Maxim already realized that Galya is not a ghost at all. She is very even real and insanely beautiful. He wanted to say something, but then a whole crowd of people came up to Galya. It was clear from the clothes that people were walking at the wedding, and whose wedding was also difficult to understand. Galya, are you getting married? Maxim looked at her confused. Yes, but if you were cured, you should have come back to me. He understood that he was carrying a full wheel, but could not do anything with himself. Galya just inflated him. She was going to die, and now she is healthy, so beautiful. Mother pushed him. Why did you get up, idiot? You can't do anything in this life at all. You will live with me until the end of your life. Oh my God. I should have been able to give birth to such an idiot. She stepped out. Everyone who stood next to Galya stepped away, letting her pass. And Maxim stood and looked at them. Finally, Vovka said, I think she's over there. There's nothing worth paying attention to. Although, listen, man, did I understand correctly now? Did you look for Galya's grave here with your mom? Maxim was silent. He understood perfectly how it all looks like now, and saying that he was just walking around here would be inappropriate. Vova took a step towards him. Well, you're a man, aren't you? Leonid added, Vova, stop calling him a man. This is Mom's baby, a baby. They went already. They turned around and walked down the path. In a minute, Max went out. She wanted to cry, to fall on the ground and knock with her feet, but he would prove to everyone that he was a man. The idiot came. Maxim calmly sat down behind the wheel and turned to his mother. And one more word, and I'll get you out of the car and you'll go to the city on foot. Iroida Fedorovna even began to grab the air of indignation, but something in the look of her son prompted her to get out. She closed her mouth and decided that he would somehow keep quiet until the city. But then, hold on, Sonny. They came back from the table in an hour. A miracle, it seems to call itself now, stretched under the table in the shade, and Vova filled the glasses. Sveta put her own and took the juice. Hala smiled. Now there will be something magical. They hid the secret from Sveta as best they could. Uzi on the most acceptable date to find out who it was. Vova was surprised to see his wife. What are you doing? You won't drink to the health of the young? Don't worry. You have so many assistants. They'll wash everything, bring everything. It's not because of that. Vova also put a glass, wiping the sweaty hands. Why? Sveta smiled. Well, why? You asked for a taxi. Here, take it, sign it. This pause and this look would envy the coolest artist of the entire era of cinema. Vova coughed and then Vova cried and hugged his wife. I thought that never again. Sveta was so confused. She never saw Vova cry. She quickly took him away and Sonia, who also wiped her eyes, loudly said, How bitter! Galya and Leonid got up embarrassed. He managed to whisper to her, I feel like a teenager. Galya smiled and They walked until dawn. The children were tired and slept all the way across the couch in the house. In the very middle, a miracle spread on their back. He was also very tired today. Vovka got so tired that Sonia and Valya had to help him get to bed. You don't understand. Today is the most important day of my life. Sonia laughed. And when the son is born, then what? Vova thought. Yes, then it will be more important. I'll go to sleep. He smacked the light. You are my most beloved. Yes, laughed. Go already, father of many children. But Vova did not lie down until he kissed all his princesses. Hallie watched everything while sitting in strong embrace of Leonid. A year ago, the world seemed black and white to her. Even more black. Now she realized that life is beautiful. Happiness can be seen from every angle. The main thing is not to run away from it. Not to hide. Lyonya. What? You can't imagine how much I love you. You can't imagine how happy I am. But why can't I imagine? I can imagine it very well. A little less than me. What do you mean? Halya looked at her husband with surprise. But no matter how much you love me, I'm still more. No matter how happy you are, I'm still more. But, Lyonya, don't argue with me. I'm a husband, and arguing with my husband is not decent. They laughed, and Lyonya pressed it even harder.